breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host, Dr. Glenn Harrison, across the screen. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm ready for this one. I'm feeling very courageous.
Man, I love you are just transitioning these intros so well. You know that? That's how you know we've been doing this a while. It's getting
I think we're going to do good on this one.
Yeah,
I'm feeling courageous.
So, we're talking about courage within your health. And this came about because of some of the things that we were talking about, not only with our patients, but also about ourselves. And that is how courage plays into your own health. So I'm going to let you take it because we talked a little bit about some of your stuff. We talked a little bit about my stuff, but I'm going to let you run with it first.
Okay. So when we started talking about this, I was thinking, well, what are some very important things that we need to achieve health and to pursue health and to live a healthy life and to live a successful life? And I see a lot of people like, what are the characteristics? What are they dealing with? And I remember talking to a friend of mine about this, and I asked her, I said, well, what is, I was going into a consult and I said, I often wonder, what are people thinking when they come in? They're going to integrative medicine if they don't have any experience. And she said, they're scared. I said, what do you mean they're scared? I'm not that scary looking, I don't think. She said, they're scared to find out what they're going to find out. They've been dealing with symptoms for years, and now they're going to come to you and you're going to open up that door. They're scared as heck. I'm like, really? I didn't put it together. And that's why we thought we were going to talk about this courage. You have to have a lot of courage or enough courage to say, I'm going to open up this door, especially with chronic illness, right? If you get a cut or a scrape or a broken bone, well, maybe it takes courage to go in for surgery, but you don't have a choice. So you're just going to go in.
Right.
But with this, if it's lingering, it's going on behind the scenes, you maybe you feel you can put it off. If you keep putting it off and you don't have the courage, okay, I'm going to find this out. I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to get help and do it. That little ailment turns into something very, very severe.
Right. And some of that stuff is really important to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like checking your credit score. It's like it takes a lot of courage to check it, but you need to know it.
That's true, because this is a great piece, because what happens if you put off something that you need to know? You put it off because you're uncomfortable with it. That's how people get into problems in finances, because they never evaluate them. They ignore them. And then it gets into a bigger problem. And then by the time they open the door and look at it, it's a much bigger problem than it needs to be. So they put it off because they don't have the courage.
Yeah. Like you talked about, it's an uncomfortable point. You did freeze a little bit there on me. I'm hoping that maybe it was just me.
Okay. No, I saw something come up on my screen. I think we're good now.
Okay. So so we have some examples of courage. And this one's actually pretty recent for me. I had a patient that came in last week for a neurological examination, and they had been suffering from vertigo for like 5 years. And when I asked them, you've been suffering from vertigo for 5 years. Why did it take you so long to come in for care or for an exam? Well, I was afraid of what you might find. And it wasn't that bad. I just had to modify how I did X, Y, and Z. I didn't look this way. I didn't look this way. When I was in a car, I didn't drive unless I absolutely have to. I didn't lay on this side when I was in bed. Like, all of those things were things that they had changed within their own life because they were afraid of what they might find at the doctors, Mm-hmm. And they had been to other physicians or other providers, and they were like, oh, it's nothing, but it never went away and it never got better. So yeah, I mean, it's scary, right? You're afraid, you have this symptom that might be, attributed to something really small, but then it gets bigger and it gets bigger, bigger, bigger. Well, maybe it'll go away, right? Sometimes it doesn't go away. It's like ignoring the check engine light on your car. The check engine light's on. It's probably just like an O2 sensor or something, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to take it into the shop because I don't have the courage to really find. I don't want to know all the details. Maybe it's bigger.
Is it going to be small?
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden the check engine light starts blinking, right? And then all of a sudden the car starts sputtering, and then you have the same situation where it just stops running altogether, right? Yeah, I don't know if I told you about that, but
no, we'll talk
my car
about
died.
it later.
We'll talk about it later. all of those scenarios happened all at once to me.
But
But
what you're getting at is the delay, the putting off, because not that you just don't want to, but you don't want to because maybe you don't have enough courage to know for sure.
right. Or if you know, what is the consequence of knowing? Right? Because it takes courage. So if you know, what are you going to do with that information?
There has
Because
to be
that also takes
change.
courage.
Yeah, because if we find out something that requires change, that's an uncomfortable situation. And everything that relates to fear is something we don't know. It's the unknown, which is fearful. So you see people coming into the office, I don't know what it is, and now I'm going to find out what it is. That's scary. I don't even want to go there. So to kind of go back to it, to kind of, hopefully we're not beating it over and over, but courage is required to maintain health and to promote health and to correct your health, because you have to open doors that maybe were closed for a long time. And the longer you keep those doors closed, it gets scarier and scarier and scarier to open. And this kind of goes to a case that I was working with. There was this guy came in with his wife, and he had really high blood pressure, but he had a severe family history of diabetes and heart disease. Everybody was dying way too young, all of his brothers, all the males in the family. And he was getting close to that age, but he had a little girl. And when he came in, he was scared as all heck. And then I realized that, people are scared when they come in to learn these things. And I asked him what his motivator was, if he was this concerned about it, because he said he really didn't want to come in. His wife was part of the force to drive him in, but he wanted to. And the reason why he wanted to open that door is because he wanted to be around for his daughter. And she was this cute little girl. And so we ran blood work, and sure enough, he was a diabetic, severe diabetic, sky high cholesterol, sky high blood pressure. He was a heart attack waiting to happen. And that scared him, but it was like he knew. So he just kind of accepted it. And then I shared with him that I was very confident we were going to be able to turn a lot of these things around, and he was all for it. And I don't know if he really truly thought he would, because he already programmed his mind that that's what the way he was, that's his brothers were, but he was just going to do everything he darn well could for his daughter. This was about his daughter. And when his blood pressure started to come down, he was getting excited, and he's making changes. But he was living for 30 years of believing his time was up prematurely, and he was going to die from something significant like his siblings did. When we ran his final labs and we were wrapping up, he lost weight, he had more energy, everything was good. But until it was black and white on paper, we revealed to him that day that he wasn't diabetic. His cholesterol was within normal range. All his heart risks were down. This grown man, big, strong man, and he bursted into tears, and he cried on his wife's shoulder. And I didn't understand why. And then I realized why. He was living in the shadows of his own life. He believed he was just kind of watching his life pass, and he didn't have any hope. He didn't have any chance of turning it around. His daughter is the one who made him move, gave him the courage to open that door. And then when he found out that his whole path was different, he was not going to fall into the path that he believed he was in. He bursted into tears. We gave him 10 minutes with his wife, and he got it out of his system. And then I went back in the room, and I started to talk about what were the things he was going to accomplish in his future, now that he knew that he was going to be around for a long time. And that was an amazing day. But I think that's what inspired me to bring up this topic. Because
that was, I mean, when you gave me that story, it was pretty powerful, honestly. And it really shows you that you are not what your diagnosis is in a lot of cases. You might be diagnosed with diabetes. You might be diagnosed with, I mean, there's a doctor that's out of Iowa. Her name's Dr. Walsh. She has MS.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've talked to you about her before.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's not her diagnosis, right? She had the courage to accept, like, I have this, but then she also had the courage to move forward and start implementing different steps. Now there's people all over the United States and the world that are following certain things within her protocol that are getting better. So I think that having like that mental fortitude, that courage for you to look at it and go,
that we
okay, I
talked
have
about in
this.
the last podcast.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. If you didn't watch it, go back and watch it. That was a good one. The courage to open the door, to find out what's wrong, but then also it does take a lot of courage, and it's going to be hard, but you to go, okay, this is what it is. This is not going to rule me. It's not who I am. It's just a part of what's going on with me. And I'm going to move forward. And I think if you look around, there's a lot of inspiring people all over that have this going on. And I really commend them, because it is hard, but it's something that will pay dividends in the end if you're willing to do it.
It is, especially a lot of people say, well, like you said, kind of living in bliss. You don't need to know, and it makes it easier. I think in some ways it can, but what it does, it takes away from life, because we feel we have this limitation that's hiding behind the curtain, and we don't want to open it. So it weighs us down. Like this guy, those tears we're hiding for a long, long time. That's not the first time lab, and I know in your clinic, same thing. Not the first time. Great lab results created abundance of tears, of all men and women.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for a sense of empowerment, find out what's going on. There's people that can help you. If you're listening to this and you don't want to open that door and you have bizarre symptoms, just deal with it. Life is too short to live on the edge and live in the shadows of life and not just engage with it. There's always a solution. And as you talked about, Dr. Kolby, knowing the answer is not going to progress the disorder. It's only going to slow it down. And it doesn't mean you have to live with a diagnosis like Terry Wall ever. There's always something can be done. I don't care what diagnosis there is, you can always improve your quality of life.
And here's the thing: if you're putting off the diagnosis you're putting off the test or whatever because you think it's something ominous, that's all the more reason you should be doing it. Mm-hmm. Because the longer you wait, if it is something bad, the more it can progress.
Yeah, and I think it's more common to be scared about these things than not. You and I were even talking about a test, and we're like, well, I don't know if I want to do that test because I don't know what I'm going to reveal. And we're like, well, what's the philosophy? And we're like, yeah, okay.
Got to practice what you preach, right?
Let's do it. So I hope this was helpful. If people are kind of on the edge, I know in my clinic, I see people are kind of scared to step across that line to find out. And I know in your office, it's the same thing. And it's a very important component. And everybody that's successful that I see in my office, there's a significant layer of courage, whatever causes it. Yeah. Whatever creates it, even if it's a little girl. Yeah.
So if you enjoyed this one, if you enjoyed the information you got here and you'd like to continue to get notified, hit the notifications button, hit like and subscribe, share this information with your friends, family and loved ones. And stay tuned, because we're going to continue to break down stuff like this and other aspects of your health. And until next time, man, have a good evening.
I will. You too. Stay courageous.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye.